It is, look, any idea, okay? Let's talk about Steve Bannon. Any idea that there's a new Donald Trump, right? Any idea that the Donald Trump we heard during the campaign, and some people have said this, that was just campaigning. All those crazy things he said, all those wild ideas about throwing all the immigrants out, rounding them up and deporting them, throwing them out of the country. All this talk about we're going to have a religious test. We're not going to let any Muslims into this country, right? All this talk about Black Lives Matter being some radical revolutionaries who are going to take down the government and maybe they ought to be rounded up and locked up. Or all this talk about lock up Hillary. You think that is gone just because now Donald Trump is the president-elect? No way, no how. And he proved it by naming as his special consigliere in the White House, right? His chief strategist in the White House, Steve Bannon, the former head of Breitbart News, who is a known and proud hater, a known and a proud white nationalist, if not a white supremacist. And I think it's fair to call him a white supremacist. And he brags about that as head of Breitbart. That's Breitbart News. That's what Breitbart had become under his leadership. And again, the president, any president, has the right to name the people that he or she someday wants to help run the government, to be the leaders of their administration. President Bush did, President Obama did, and President, when he's there, Trump will as well. And now, as he's putting his administration together, that's his privilege, that's his right. Nobody would take it away from them. At the same time, and we're not always happy with the people they name. I wasn't happy with all the people that President Obama named, but again, that's that comes with the territory, right? However, you can also tell a lot about the person who is leading the country by the people that he appoints to be around him and close to him. And naming Steve Breitbart says an awful lot about Donald Trump, which is he really believes that nonsense, believes those outrageous things that he said, and that he will try as president to bring them about.
I'll tell you what all I needed to know about what kind of a person Steve Bannon is. I went to Breitbart.com for the first time probably ever.
Yeah, it's a scary website.
It's honest to God.
Yeah, I've checked it out.
It is a weird, scary website. But on the front page, I lost count at 5 different headlines proclaiming that Steve Bannon is not an anti-Semite. Orthodox. I'm not kidding. Right at the top, Orthodox Jewish Breitbart editor refutes bogus claims against Bannon. Coulter, Priebus Bannon hires brilliant. Go a little bit farther down. Stephen Bannon is a friend of the Jewish people and defender of Israel. Charles Hurt, Republican commentator, calling Bannon anti-Semitic or racist absurd cheapens those terms. Ben Carson's former press secretary on Bannon's racist allegations. I have no patience for that. I could keep going.
Yeah, right.
Those are all on the front page of Breitbart.com right now.
All right, but this is a guy who did say, he told Mother Jones just last summer that Breitbart was, in fact, the home of the alt-right. And, you know, Hillary talked a lot about the alt-right. Now we've learned what the alt-right really is all about. The alt-right are those extreme white nationalists who do believe that Western civilization is going down because there are too many minorities now, too many minorities in power in this country. The rising tide, if you will, they fear that, and they want to turn it back. And again, you want to know, Peter, you mentioned that Breitbart is defending the nomination of Steve Bannon. And let's also back up just a little bit. So he announces Bannon and Priebus at the same time. It was noted and noteworthy that Bannon was the first announcement, and then, oh, by the way, we also named Reince Priebus, who is a Washington insider, as chief of staff. But clearly, the person who's going to have the most influence on Donald Trump is Steve Breitbart. So, Steve Bannon. I'm sorry. David Duke said that, former wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, right, called the choice excellent. The chair of the American Nazi Party praised the choice of Steve Bannon, saying It proves that Mr. Trump might, in fact, be for real. And again, David Duke saying that Mr. Bannon was basically creating the ideological aspects of where we are going. Peter, you mentioned going to the Breitbart website. Again, any doubt about who this guy is? Here's some of the headlines, recent headlines from Breitbart. 2 weeks after the massacre at the Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, Breitbart had a headline, "Hoist it high and proud. The Confederate flag proclaims a glorious heritage." Another headline, recent headline, "Birth control makes women unattractive and crazy." Gabby Giffords, here's another one. Gabby Giffords, "The gun control movement's human shield." How disgusting. This is the guy who Donald Trump has picked up, run his campaign, came in August, and then moving on now as the chief strategist for the President of the United States.
And by the way, one of the most talked about headlines that they had was this one of Bill Kristol, who I'm no big fan of. No, exactly. I'd hate to rush to his defense.
You talk about this guy's not anti-Semitic. Listen to this.
Bill Kristol, Republican spoiler, renegade Jew.
Yeah, right. And the Trump people, of course, now they're circling the wagons and defending this guy. Here is Reince Priebus yesterday.
I find him not to be the way that he's being accused. I find him to be the opposite, and I think people need to give people time and give people an opportunity and not make judgments. Don't judge people based on what other people say.
Well, we're not judging him based on what other people say. We're judging him based on what he has said and what he has written. I mean, this guy was publisher of a major it's wrong to call it a conservative website. It's an extremist, radical right website. And we know what he stands for because he proudly hoisted that banner every day on his website. But again, Reince Priebus saying, no, he's really a good guy. Newt Gingrich on Fox News Sunday.
Steve Bannon is a naval officer. He was a managing partner at Goldman Sachs. He was a Hollywood movie producer. You know, the idea that somehow he represents, I'd never heard of the alt-right until the nutcase started writing about it.
Yeah, well, maybe he didn't hear the phrase alt-right, but we know what white supremacist means. We know what the American Nazi Party means. We know what the KKK is, Newt Gingrich. But again, Newt's just looking for a job for himself. Yeah. So he's playing, Mr. Nice Guy. And I heard last night Tucker Carlson, my friend, had his first show, Tucker Carlson at Night on Fox News. One of his guests was Laura Ingraham, who's rumored to be in line to be the next press secretary of the White House. And she was praising Steve Bannon on the news as such a great guy, such a brilliant guy. So they're all putting all these people out there to praise Steve Bannon. He is a disaster. And we all ought to be afraid of having him that close to the President of the United States. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. We'll be right back.
I'd never heard of the alt-right until the nutcase started writing about it.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.